The fox hunter saw it first. A cardboard box lying in the underbrush along Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia's Fox Chase neighborhood. It was February 1957, and something about the box didn't sit right with him. He didn't stop. Days later, on February 25th, a college student checking his muskrat traps noticed the same box and looked inside. He ran to call the police. Inside the J.C. Penney bassinet box was the naked body of a small boy, aged somewhere between 3 and 7 years old. His hair had been recently crudely cropped, chopped so close to the scalp that small cuts marked his head. His fingernails and toenails had been trimmed. His body had been scrubbed almost clinically clean. He was wrapped in a flannel blanket and arranged carefully in the box, his arms at his sides. The medical examiner determined he'd been dead no more than a few days, possibly just hours. The boy had died from multiple blows to the head. He was malnourished, stood about 3'3", weighed 30 pounds. His body bore old scars, evidence of chronic abuse. His eyes were blue, and he had distinctive features, a prominent chin, a small thin nose, and an unusual scalp condition that suggested his hair had been cut while wet, then dried in that position. The police launched one of the most extensive missing persons investigations in American history. They fingerprinted the boy's body and sent his prints to every police department in the country. They circulated 400,000 flyers. They showed his photograph, his dead face, cleaned and positioned to look peaceful, in every newspaper, on television, in post offices. Surely someone was missing this child. Surely someone would recognize him. No one came forward. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood. The box had contained a bassinet manufactured by J.C. Penney and sold in their Upper Darby store. Investigators tracked down every single person who'd purchased that model bassinet in the Delaware Valley. The blanket was traced to a batch sold in Philadelphia, but every lead dissolved into nothing. The area where the boy was found was strange, too. It was wooded but not remote, just a short distance from busy Susquehanna Road. Across the street stood a cluster of small homes. How had no one seen anything? How had no one noticed a child being carried, a box being left? Then came the theories. A man came forward, claiming he'd bought a bassinet from a young woman at a roadside stand near the location. She had a young boy with her who matched the victim's description, acting strangely lethargic. The woman said she needed money for their bus fare. The man bought the bassinet, but when he returned later with police, the stand was gone and the woman was never found. Was she real, or a phantom born of guilty conscience? A psychic claimed the boy had lived in a house nearby, that she could see his spirit. Police excavated the area. They found nothing. Decades passed. The boy was buried in a potter's field, his grave marked only with a sign, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." A local man, unable to bear the thought of the child lying anonymous and unmourned, paid for a headstone that read, "America's Unknown Child." In 1998, a woman came forward with a story that seemed, finally, to break the case open. She claimed her abusive mother had purchased a boy from his biological parents in 1954. The mother, who ran a foster home, kept the boy hidden in the basement, barely fed him, beat him. One night in 1957, after the mother had violently shaved the boy's hair because it was matted, she'd beaten him too hard during a bath. He vomited, then collapsed, dead.
The woman and her mother had wrapped the boy, put him in a box from the attic, and dumped him in Fox Chase. She knew details that had never been released to the public. Police believed her. But they could never prove it. The woman's mother was dead. The house she described had been torn down. And crucially, when DNA technology advanced enough to test the boy's remains, there was no familial match to the woman who'd confessed her family's role. The story, so convincing, so detailed, fell apart. The boy's body was exhumed in 1998 and again in 2019 for further DNA testing. Genealogical databases were searched. Age progression technology was used on his face, imagining what he might have looked like older, what his parents might look like. Still, nothing. In 2022, Philadelphia police announced they were finally close to identifying the boy through genetic genealogy, the same technique that caught the Golden State Killer. They said they knew his family name, but as of today, no public identification has been made. The boy remains nameless on the official records. Somewhere out there, possibly still alive, are people who knew him, who fed him, who hurt him, who killed him, who disposed of him like trash in a cardboard box. They've lived their entire lives knowing what they did, knowing that for over 65 years, no one has answered for his death. In Philadelphia's Ivy Hill Cemetery, the grave still stands. Visitors leave toys, flowers, notes. "We haven't forgotten you," they say to a boy whose name they never knew. The cardboard box that held him sits in an evidence locker, waiting. The case file remains open, and somewhere in the Philadelphia night, the ghost of a small blue-eyed boy still asks the only question that matters: who was I?